is steering him. Good Roman Bogdanovich is a Balt imbued with German rather than Russian culture. The eccentric Jew Weinstock, the pacifist woman doctor Mariana Nikolaevna, and the classless narrator himself are representatives of the many-faceted Russian intelligentsia. These tips should make things a little easier for the kind of listener who, like myself, is wary of novels that deal with spectral characters in unfamiliar surroundings, such as translations from the Magyar or the Chinese. As is well known, to employ a famous Russian phrase, my books are not only blessed by a total lack of social significance, but are also myth-proof. Freudians flutter around them avidly, approach with itching oviducts, stop, sniff, and recoil. A serious psychologist, on the other hand, may distinguish through my rain-sparkling Christograms a world of soul disillusion, where poor Smurov only exists insofar as he is reflected in other brains, which in their turn are placed in the same strange specular predicament as his. The texture of the tale mimics that of detective fiction, but actually the author disclaims all intention to trick, puzzle, fool, or otherwise deceive the listener. In fact, only that listener who catches on at once will derive genuine satisfaction from the eye. It is unlikely that even the most credulous listener of this twinkling tale will take long to realize who Smurov is. I tried it on an old English lady, 2 graduate students, an ice hockey coach, a doctor, and the 12-year-old child of a neighbor. The child was the quickest, the neighbor the slowest. The theme of the eye is the pursuit of an investigation which leads the protagonist through a hell of mirrors and ends in the merging of twin images. I do not know if the keen pleasure I derived 35 years ago from adjusting in a certain mysterious pattern the various phases of the narrator's quest will be shared by modern listeners. But in any case, the stress is not on the mystery, but on the pattern. Tracking down Smurov remains, I believe, excellent sport despite the passing of time and books, and the shift from the mirage of one language to the oasis of another. The plot will not be reducible, in the listener's mind, if I read that mind correctly, to a dreadfully painful love story in which a writhing heart is not only spurned but humiliated and punished. The forces of imagination, which in the long run are the forces of good, remain steadfastly on Smurov's side, and the very bitterness of tortured love proves to be as intoxicating and bracing as would be its most ecstatic requital. Vladimir Nabokov. Montreux, April 19, 1965. I met that woman, that Matilda, during my first autumn of émigré existence in Berlin, in the early 20s of 2 spans of time, this century and my foul life. Someone had just found me a house tutor's job in a Russian family that had not yet had time to grow poor and still subsisted on the phantasmata of its old St. Petersburg habits. I had no previous experience in bringing up children, had not the least idea how to comport myself and what to talk about with them. There were 2 of them, both boys. In their presence, I felt a humiliating constraint. They kept count of my smokes, and this bland curiosity made me hold my cigarette at an odd, awkward angle, as if I were smoking for the first time. I kept spilling ashes in my lap, and then their clear gaze would pass attentively from my hand to the pale gray pollen gradually rubbed into the wool. Matilda, a friend of their parents, often visited them and stayed on for dinner. One night, as she was leaving, and there was a noisy downpour, they lent her an umbrella, and she said, "How nice! Thank you very much. The young man will see me home and bring it back." From that time on, walking her home was one of my duties. I suppose she rather appealed to me, this plump, uninhibited, cow-eyed lady with her large mouth, which would gather into a crimson pucker, a would-be rosebud, when she looked in her pocket mirror to powder her face. She had slender ankles and a graceful gait, which made up for many things.